So today we're playing more Star Trek. We're going to continue the story from last time. And don't worry, we'll get you caught up right after the intro. Hi folks, and welcome to Sharp Mountain Games. Here we talk about group role-playing games, solo role-playing games, and there are plenty of actual plays in the playlist. You can check out our print and PDF products at Amazon, Lulu, Drive-Thru, and Roll20. And they're all linked below. Let's get started, and we're glad you're here. So today we're continuing our story, Lost Aurora, and let me just give you an idea of who our characters are here, and then I'll give you the recap. I have my little cards here. So we have Commander Adam Weston, who is the second in command of the USS Freedom. And if you'll excuse my reach, I have the Freedom right here. I guess I can put that on camera here. I have my little model, and my son was good enough to put a peg on there, so it looks like it's flying. We have Dr. Austin Heath, who's a human doctor. We have Neela Dane, who is a human security officer. We have Talaran, who is our Vulcan science officer. And Tharo, who is our Edosian engineer. And unfortunately, with my setup, these cards take up a lot of room. So I'm going to scoop them out of the way and put them off to the side for now. And we have our tokens here to represent them. I tried that last time, and I think it worked pretty well to be able to tell who's who. Usually I really like to use, little pig people that I have, little peoples or meeples that I have, and they're a lot of fun too. But I think this is working really nicely. So let me tell you where they are in the story. So even if you missed the first part, hey, don't worry about it. You can watch it later if you'd like. I hope you do. But you'll be able to follow today's story, no problem. So the USS Freedom entered the Boule Nebula. They were searching for the USS Aurora. Now, the Aurora was attempting to find a straight path through this particular nebula. In the past, ships had to go all the way, long way around the nebula to reach the colonies and the Federation planets on the other side. The problem is that a lot of those planets are close to the Romulan neutral zone. So they really need a straight shot through that nebula, a faster way to get there, should there be any problems in the future. If the Romulans would invade or anything like that. And they experienced a psychic attack from a space storm. It seemed to really dredge up memories of the past and painful experiences. And when they beamed aboard the Aurora, the crew members had devolved into cavemen, and some had evolved into far future humans. That was especially true on the bridge. And Talarian, that was her first away mission, so she was, I don't know if Vulcans get nervous, but a little bit concerned, even if she wouldn't admit it. And so when they made their way to the bridge, the crew of the Aurora had evolved so far in the future that they had psionic powers, and only Talaran was able to resist those psionic powers and eventually stun some of the crew members so that they could, get back to get the crew, the Aurora, safe and get themselves safely back to the USS Freedom. So they were able to get the Aurora in tow and get the engines going. Tharo was in order to get it safely away from the nebula. But unfortunately, they have to go back into the nebula, and we'll kind of set up a little bridge setup here because they need to find the source of these time disturbances. So let's see. Where we're starting now is that, they're on the bridge. There'll be some bridge officers there. We don't need to worry too much about who the bridge officers are, but there'll be, your standard bridge officers. That'll be our captain. I'm still thinking about who I want the captain to be because I want Weston to be able to, he's more like a Commander Riker. Oops, there's Weston, where he can be someone who beams down to the planets and get in the middle of the action. I know Kirk certainly did that often enough, but I think that was an exception rather than the rule. So they are now re-entering the nebula. I'll move our spaceship out of the way just so it's not a problem. And they are going to have to try to find, where the source of these disturbances are. So I'm going to say this is definitely for Talaran. She's going to be at her science console. And for those of you who haven't joined me before, these are just dominoes that I spray painted. And I like a particularly lo-fi approach. And the reason for that is because I don't want to spend so much time preparing to play that I never play. I think, especially if you're an adult, and even if you're not, even if you're a student or a young person, you probably have plenty of things in your life with school and work and family responsibilities. So I think it's important to keep things as simple as possible and just enjoy the process. And obviously, if I'm just playing a game without anybody else around, sometimes I don't even bring anything else out. I just write in my notebook and roll some dice and all that. So Talarian is going to make some science rolls, and the better she does, she'll get more information. So we're going to do 3 science rolls, and I'm going to just do them all at once. Well, maybe we'll do them one at a time to be more suspenseful. So she got a 15, and this is a good time to give you a rough idea how this system works. So I'm using a system called Streamline Space. I am in the process of finalizing some of the revisions and the writing. Once school lets out, I'll have a little more time for that. And the way I'm running it, at least as of late, is it's D20 and you add a bonus. Why am I doing that? Not because I think it's the only system or the best system, but it's familiar and it's simple. And you want to beat a 10. There's no sliding difficulty numbers here or sliding armor classes. You beat a 10. If something's especially difficult, you're going to roll with disadvantage. If something's reasonably easy or you have some special ability, you'll roll with advantage. It keeps things a little bit more narrow maybe than you're used to in traditional D20, but it also makes things go much, much faster. So that 15 is great. So let's do another science roll for her. And I can't see that too well. A 5, and her science is +3, so that one is a failure. Oh, a 1. No good. So she is able to get the location of the time disturbance. She's able to detect that there's a planet kind of deep in this nebula. However, she's not really able to get any, other huge information about it. So they're going to bring the ship, in through the nebula. They don't hit any more space storms along the way. They were smart enough. They knew where the initial disturbance was that had caught the Aurora, and they do go a bit around that. And the captain is wondering, well, maybe if we take care of this problem, it'll take care of that space storm. Maybe if it's being artificially created. And Talarian says, I can't know until I get closer. She said, I wish I had more information for you, Captain. And they get closer. And as they get closer, Thero wants to make a engineering check here. And he says to Talarian, I'm going to try and boost your signal, Talarian, to see if we can get more information. So what does that mean? It means if Thero, who is our Edosian engineer, they're the fellows and gals who have 3 arms and 3 legs. I thought they were just so cool in the animated series. Oh, 19. That's plenty good. I don't even have to worry about what his bonus is because it's well over 10. So he is boosting the signal to try and just get a little bit more information as they approach this planet and as they scan it. So it's deep within the nebula. There's a lot of gas, but there are still some planets that have formed here. So let's see if she needs the advantage. Yeah, she's going to need the advantage because she got a 2 on the first roll. Don't know if you can see that. Maybe I should slide my camera or my dice tower here. And a 13 on the second one. So it's a good thing that Thero gave her the advantage on that roll. Yes, and what they're able to detect is they're able to detect a technological signature on the planet. And she scans the planet. It's a standard scan. She doesn't need to make a roll for that. And it's a rocky planet, and it's kind of warm. It seems like she says, Captain, I think that this planet was only recently cooled and the mantle and the crust solidified. I don't think this is a very new planet, probably not long enough for life to be on there. So it's unusual that we're detecting this signal here. So she's able to get a little bit of information with Thero's help so that they know where to beam down. And the captain says, well, I think I'm going to have a standard 5 go down. He said, because, we have to take care of things down there. So he's ordering his former away team to go down, and they report to the transporter room. And some of them are very worried about what if there's a psionic attack because, other than Talarian, they were incapacitated by it last time. So this is something that's really playing on their minds. But they're officers. They don't let on or, make a big deal out of it. They have to, steel themselves and go on, like we all do in difficult situations. So let me remove our little bridge here. Put these off to the side in case I want them. Now they're going to beam down, but they're not going to beam down right in the middle of all of this. They're not going to beam down right where they got the signal. They'll beam down maybe a mile or so away and make their way in. Anila Dane, who's our security officer, she says, I urge you have your phasers out just in case there's any kind of problem. And the commander says, yes, of course, I certainly concur. So they have their phasers out and they have their tricorders. And let's have Dr. Heath make a medical roll here because he'd definitely be the one scanning for things here to see what's ahead of them. 13, so that's over 10. Makes it a lot quicker. It's almost, just looking at getting over 10, because you keep the number the same, it really is just as quick as a roll under system, which I do like. I do really like roll under systems, but I think most people are more comfortable because of D&D with the adding. Okay, so he is getting, there's a signal, and they can see there is a ship. Now, this is a Star Wars ship, but it's going to have to represent a ship there. And let's see, 5, they don't recognize the type of ship here. Neela Dane she's security, so she'd probably be the one most likely. And so there is a ship, and they also get a technological signal. And Dr. Austin Heath, Dr. Heath says, I'm getting one life reading up ahead. Not necessarily from the ship area, but from somewhere else. So, Commander Weston says, well, we're going to scout ahead very, very cautiously. So he is going to send Neela ahead to see what is going on. So she's going ahead, and I'm going to leave her as first. I'm starting to think about kind of the initiative order, how they would act. The doctor would probably act last, the doctor and the engineer, just in terms of should we go into a combat situation. So she's going to sneak ahead, and I'm going to say that's probably going to be a fitness roll for her. Can she move quietly? And she has a +2 on that. Now, she is a human, so humans have the advantage of twice per day they can do a reroll. So if we have a problem here, she could possibly do a reroll if she wants to burn her reroll early. 3, she is going to burn one of her rerolls, and I better keep track of that on a card here. So Neela burned a reroll. She only has one reroll. Just put it on the back of a card here. And that one is good enough for her to do that. And what she sees ahead is a gateway. That's not quite as tall as this, but this is what I have. Maybe I'll make it a little shorter. This is what I have pieces for. There's a gateway, and it's a technological gateway. And monitoring it is one fellow with pointy ears, looks rather like a Vulcan, but she easily recognizes, certainly from her training, that this is a Romulan. But she was quiet enough that she did not alert him, so she'll sneak back and report to the others. And she'll say, well, there's Romulan ahead, and he's guarding some kind of gateway, and there were strange energy emissions that I could see from it. It's almost like a tunnel or a gate or something. She said it's very odd. I'm not familiar with all this. And I have my tea here to keep my voice in pretty good shape. So Commander Weston says, of course, then we have to be cautious about things, is what he's going to urge. He says, Neela, again, I want you to go, and we're going to try and have you get the jump. I'm going to go with you as well to back you up. And he tells the others, he said, approach cautiously, he said, but keep your eye on that ship in case there's anybody in there who, would come out and attack us from behind. So Neela and Weston are going to try to get the jump on this guy and possibly stun him. So they're both going to make a fitness roll. So Weston's going to be the red, Neela will be the yellow dice. I like to think about the rainbow, and do they make it? Weston does, and Neela does not. So she steps on something, is doing her best to be quiet, but steps on something. She mutters something under her mouth. She mutters a curse, but I don't curse on my videos. I try not to in real life too, but definitely not in the videos. And this Romulan is alerted, and he immediately reaches for his disruptor. Let's see who goes first. 1, 2, 3, it's our Starfleet officers. 4, 5, 6, it's the Romulan. And I should turn these so that you can see their faces better. And what do we get? A 4. The Romulan is going to get a shot off at them. Even roll, he hits Neela. Odd roll, he hits Weston. Even roll, but he missed. Well under. So he is, he's startled so quickly. Yes, he has his disruptor on his side. Romulans and Klingons are always armed, but he is not able to get a shot off. So let's see if Neela does, and she's shooting to stun here. And Weston's going to shoot as well. Let's see how they hit. Okay, so Neela hits, and does Weston hit his combat? Oh, it's +2, so they both get a 10. They both hit. So that's 2 shots. He is going to have to try and make a save for his stun. Nope, that's a 5. Definitely misses. So they easily stun him. And they come in and they secure him. I imagine there's some rope. And Weston says to Thera, he says, scan that ship. See if you can get any idea what's going on with that ship. Now, the ship is locked up. Let's see what Thera finds out. 9, and his engineering is +3. So, yeah, he can easily, he says, the ship is locked down. There's a security field. He said, I could probably break it, but it may take some time. I don't know if there's any information. And the commander says, well, don't worry about that. We're going to try and get information out of this fella here. So they tie him up, they secure him. I'm sure that they, especially our security officer, would have some kind of restraints, something like a zip tie or something, certainly, to secure him. And then the doctor gives him some kind of stim shot to bounce him back to normal. And he's not talking. He's, Federation types, you're too late to stop us. And of course, Weston says, well, stop you from what? There's only you here. And what's this device? And he says, maybe he's a little bit brash too. Let's see how Weston did with his communications. His communication is +3. 2. No, not very good. I think he's going to burn a reroll on that. 18. Look at that. So let me make a note that Weston burned a reroll. Just so I don't, cheat myself. And because if you're cheating yourself, why are you even rolling the dice? Just write a story. Nothing wrong with just writing a story either, but it's a different thing. So he is able to convince, he says, but is your life worth it? He says, and the Romulan, of course my life is worth it for the good of the Romulan Empire. But Weston did get his role there, so perhaps he has Neela threaten him a little bit, even though the Federation would not use this. He kind of makes a motion for Neela to threaten him a little bit. She does. She's a security officer, so she's right in his face with the phaser. She says, no matter how brave you are and how committed you are, I don't think you're going to like this phaser right underneath your chin. And he gets a little bit nervous by all this. And he, maybe he's not cowardly, but he's practical. And he says, it won't matter. He says, as soon as they succeeded, this whole reality will change. He said, you won't even matter or exist at that point or be here probably. And Weston says, what? And he says, they're changing the past. Now, Tharo and Talaran are going to try to deal with this device. What they see through the device is it's constantly changing. They're getting different images of different times. They can't tell too much. And of course, it's Romulan, so that's kind of a problem. So Talaran is going to try and assist Tharo to see if he can operate this device. Now, that's an 8 for Talaran, but she has to add her science, which is +3, so that's an 11, so she succeeds. So that's going to give advantage for Tharo, which is good. And Tharo gets a 3 and a 15. Okay, so the 15 definitely, like I said, if you're above a 10, you don't even need to worry about check-in. Yeah, he is able to operate the device, and it hones in on this jungle. And it stabilizes there. And he says, Commander Weston, I was able to get the last, kind of the browser history here and see where it was last set to. And Talaran recognizes it. And she says, that's Vulcan. She's almost surprised, and she tries to, of course, she has to control her emotions because she is a Vulcan. She says, that's Vulcan prehistory. And she reminds him, she said, you know that the Romulans and the Vulcans both evolved from the same planet, and then the Romulans went their own way. And the Romulan says, yes, and imagine if the Vulcans had never fully developed, if their peaceful strain and their logical strain, if that hadn't continued in the evolutionary pathway. So the commander is very concerned about all this. And he says, we may not have much time. He said, all this time travel, he said, I read about it. There was reports of Kirk's crew having problems with time travel and experiences with that. He said, we have to go back. He said, we have to go back and see what's going on and possibly stop these people. So he's going to say, now, Tharo, you're the only one who can control this. So he said, I think you need to stay behind. And he radios up to the ship, or communicates up to the ship, that they're going to beam this Romulan aboard as a prisoner. So we'll, beam him aboard, with the shiny, sparkly effect. And Tharo, he says, and I don't think we're going to find a lot of technology in Vulcan prehistory. He said, so I want you to stay behind. He said, because that way you can monitor things. Maybe you'll even be able to monitor us and hopefully bring us back. And Dr. Heath says, I didn't sign up for any dinosaurs or archaeological work when I signed up on board here. He said, but I guess we have to go. And Weston kind of, hushes. He said, we'll be fine. He said, but we've got to do this. So the 4 of them are going to step through the gateway. Can I get them through the gateway? Is this going to work? Oh, look at that. And as they step through the gateway, if you remember the leap through the Guardian and Forever, it's kind of like that. And then all of a sudden, they're in the prehistory. I'm going to just slide my gate way over here out of the way, keep Tharo out of the way. We don't need that ship any longer. I can put that out the way for right now. And they step out. Now, this is Vulcan many, many years ago. And Weston says something to the effect, I was expecting a desert planet. And Talaran says, well, during our prehistory, the planet was much more humid and tropical. Things have changed since then. The orbit of the planet has shifted a little bit. So they are able to get through, and they are now in the past. And Weston says to Neela, he says, well, put something down, so we can get a bead on this. So Neela puts down some markers that they have, some little technological, like a homing device or something that would, a radio transmitter that would let them find their way back to the gate, because they can't see the gate from this side, even though I haven't. I better move it out of the way. Set it up here. And she also puts a marker down, gets a reading on it so they know exactly where they're at. and they start to make their way inward. Commander Weston says, well, how do we know where we're going? Neela says, well, let me see if I can detect any Romulan footprints possibly. And Doctor, maybe you can try and scan and see if you get any intelligent life forms up ahead. So let's see what we're going to do here. Let's see. The Doctor will be the green and Neela will be the red. So she is scanning. Neela is scanning for some, or looking for some footprints and stuff there. And I'm going to say that would be in her science training. No, she doesn't have good science training necessarily. And the Doctor is scanning using his medicine, which is +3. So he just barely makes it. He says, well, what I'm getting is, he said, the problem is all the signatures are Vulcan. He said, but I'm getting a large concentration kind of to the southeast. Perhaps it's a village or something. And Neela says, well, wait a second. And she climbs a tree to see what she can see. And in fact, she sees smoke from down there. And she said, that's definitely a village. She said, but I think we have to be aware of the Prime Directive. And the commander says, well, of course, I know that. He said, although we're in an unusual situation because if we follow too closely to the Prime Directive and we don't find out where those Romulans are, he said, that could be a problem too. There may not be any Federation and Prime Directive to worry about. So the Doctor was able to detect that. Let's see if he's able to detect maybe where the Romulans are. 15, look at that. So he gets an idea or he can see that there's a hill, and he says, I'm getting 3 signatures off from the others. He said they could be primitive Vulcan hunters. He said, or they could be the Romulans. We don't know how many came through. So they are going to take their time and make their way through the jungle here. And Talarian is fascinated, to be back in her own prehistory. And they hear some noise from the bushes. And let's roll to see if surprise is possible. I'm going to say they get surprised on a 4, 5, or 6. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, yep. I wanted to make it. I said it wrong. 4 out of 6. So out of the bushes come 2 creatures. Now, they're the same, but I didn't have 2 of the same. I have this prehistoric dinosaur creature there, and I have the crocodile thing, but they're the same. And Talarian recognizes them immediately, from her own studies. Oh, they're Lamatias. And she can even hear a little bit of emotion in her voice or surprise in her voice, obviously because there's fear here for anybody. And they are going to get to attack first. So they rush in and they each get 2 attacks. This may not be too good. We'll see how things go. You never know how things go. So we'll just do all of their attacks at once. And we'll do red, yellow, green, blue. That way it keeps it to the rainbow. Red and yellow are misses. Blue is a miss. Yeah, look at that. Look at all those 1s. And, a 20. Now, there's no criticals, so this thing bites at the Doctor. For 4 points of damage. So let me make a little note where that takes the Doctor. So the Doctor is lost a few hit points. Not critical, but he did lose a little bit of a hit points. And he has to make a fitness save. Now, he has no bonus on his fitness, so he needs a 10 or better. 4. No, he does not make it, and he is, not able to move. He is almost paralyzed there, so that's he's going to be able to check and get out of that next round, but we'll see what happens. So the others, Weston hollers, he says, put them on stun. We have to try to stun them. We can't risk killing them. But they're big creatures. They're not really set up for human stun. So let's see what happens here. I can have Lamacha 1 and Lamata 2. So we're going to have Weston and Talarian and Neela are going to be able to fire. The doctor, unfortunately, is paralyzed for right now. I'll put a little dice on him to indicate he's paralyzed. And let's see how they do. Oh, look at that. All successes. So they shoot, and let's see how they do. So 3 or 4 damage to the one. What's that? Oh, 2 damage to the other. I'm rolling terribly. And 8 damage. Let's say that goes to the second one as well. So they are, and they howl, you know, "Ah!" in this voice, and so he did not get to act. We'll check next round. Let's see if he's going to get to act next round. His action is only the fitness check this round. 9, but he doesn't have any bonuses, so he is still out of commission. So they're going to get their attacks here. Let's see how they do. Oh, they're all good, because they're definitely going to be a bonus there. So they are going to attack, and everybody is going to take some damage here and have to make that save. So let's see. Let's have, we'll do Weston's save here first, and his damage misses his save. And he takes 6 points of damage. Could be rough. Could be rough. But that's all right. That's the way it goes. So he is also still paralyzed. So on his next turn, the only thing he's going to be able to do is snap out of it. All right, so we'll try for Talarian. All right, she makes her save. Oops, I moved the die. I'm going to say 4. That's fine. Sometimes the dice flip around on me here. So Talarian takes 4. And how about Neela Dane, our security officer? She makes her save, which is good, but takes 1 point of damage. So not too bad for her. And she says, we've got to try to scare them off. So those are the only 2 who get to act in this round. So she says, you know, aim for the one that's less damaged. So they both aim, and let's see. Neela misses, but Talarian hits for 7 more points of damage. Okay. And then we have to see if the doctor and Commander Weston can snap out of things here. And let's see. Yes, the doctor does. But the commander does not. Okay, now my beasties are at about half hit points. So what I'm going to do is require them to make a save to see if they stay in the fight. Okay? So let's see how it's going to go. It's going to be a 50% chance for each of them. So on a 1, 2, 3, one or the other will flee. 4. This one does not flee. Is that a 3? Yes, good. So this one, it's been injured. You know, it's an animal. It's smart enough to want to save its own life. It has no motivation to fight to the death. So it runs away. Now, let's see what happens with the other one. So it is going to probably, let's say it will attack Heath here, because that's the one who's closest, Dr. Austin, or Dr. Heath, Austin Heath, I should say, Dr. Heath. So let's see if it attacks him. Does it hit? 2. No. Good. It misses. So now I've got 3 people who are able to shoot at it, and they are shooting to damage it, but hopefully non-lethally. But their stun thing, it's probably just not going to work on a creature this big. And the Lamatya, they kind of look like a cross between a lizard and a saber-toothed tiger. Just so you have a rough idea of what we're dealing with. I should have said that earlier. My apologies. So let's see our hits. Neela misses, but oh, the doctor gets a hit. Rare case the doctor gets a hit. And so does Neela Dane. So let's see what kind of damage they do. So the other one went away. Let me mark off his numbers. So they do 4 damage. And 5 more. So that's 9 more points of damage. This thing is very weakened. The only way it's staying in the fight is if I roll a 6. And I did not roll a 6. So it is weakened and bleeding and getting out of the area here. And I'm going to assume they're able to revive the commander when this thing gets out of there. And the doctor says, "Oh, that was rough. That was rough." He says, "I know some people were hurt." Now his med pack, the med packs have 5 treatments. And I'm just making my notes so I have it later. So he said, "Oh, who's worst damaged here? Looks like everybody took some damage." He said, "But we don't know what we're facing next, so I better try and do some healing." Okay, so we'll go around. Neela says, I'm fine. She took 1 point damage. She said, don't use it on me. Save that for later. She said, I just have a little nick. I'll be fine. So he goes to the captain, and he's going to try to make a medicine roll. Not to the captain, the commander. So he gets to add +3 to this. Yeah, fine. So he's able to heal 2d6 points of damage, but he burns a med kit treatment. So he restores 3 points of damage to the commander and uses up a treatment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he used 1 up. And then Talaran took a little bit of damage, not that much. He says, yeah, but we need everybody up to speed here. So let's see how he does. Does he make it? Yep. So 2d6 points of healing. So that's 7. So she is back up to normal. And then the doctor is going to try and, physician, heal thyself, as they say. So he's going to try and put a med pack on himself just to bandage his wounds. And a 14, so that's plenty good. Oops, it has to go in the dice tower here. And how did he do for himself? 7, yeah, so that should get him back up to normal. So the only two who are injured are Neela and the commander a little bit. But, the commander gets his breath. He says, good work, doctor. Thank you so much. He says, and he says to Talaran, he says, your past is very dangerous. And she says, I know that, commander. So they have to now proceed up the hill and see what they can do to try and stop the Romulans. But I'm looking at the time, and we've gone almost 40 minutes here, so I think that's long enough for this particular episode. So please come back for the 3rd episode. I'll film that as soon as I can and get it up, hopefully maybe even later in the week. And I thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a good time here on Lost Aurora, Episode 2.